Welcome to the MVP Show. If you follow or read the blog Surviving CRM, then this man needs no introduction. His blog is one of the most read and most recommended blogs in the Dynamics community. I'm happy to welcome to today's podcast, straight from Helsinki, Finland, Jukka. Notice I didn't say his last name because, let's give it a go. Jukka Niiranen. I think that's my attempt. Sorry, mate, for butchering that for you. Anyhow, full show notes can be found by visiting nz365guy.com/131. Now let's get on with the show. Jukka, welcome to the MVP Show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Great to be here.
Good to have you. It seems we're communicating a bit more frequently lately. Our paths are crossing, and then I see tomorrow, and this will be past tense for those listeners, but we're both going to Oslo to speak at the Power Platform Saturday event that Marius has put on.
Yeah, that's going to be my second time in Oslo. What about you?
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. What are you speaking on? What's your theme?
I'll be speaking about canvas apps for the model-driven mind. So kind of the mind shift that we all need to now embrace once we have to leave our external background behind and be a part of the bold new Power Platform.
Yeah, so true. So let's get to know you, a bit of the audience, if they don't know who you are. What part of the world do you hail from?
So I come from Helsinki, Finland, Northern Europe, and it's actually where I've lived all my life. So I currently work at a company called Elisa. It's a telecom operator in Finland, the largest one around here. So my role there is the product lead for Microsoft Business Applications offerings. So I'm in our IT unit, and I'm there trying to ensure that whatever we offer for our customers from the Microsoft stack, that it's going to be aligned with where it's heading, where Microsoft's heading, and then what other services are provided to the customers from our portfolio. So that's kind of where I am right at the moment.
So you're very much you work in a customer, not for a partner as such. Is that correct?
Well, we are partners. So we're one of the biggest Office 365 resellers in Finland. So we of course use some Dynamics internally, but it's not our only platform. So in a big company, there's lots of competing.
But you're a telecom partner primarily. Is that right?
No, we actually are a telco, but we have a IT business. So it's actually my second time working for telco. So I also did this back in 2010, just before the CRM Online was launched globally. So been kind of interested in this kind of business due to the fact that if we look at where the set of these cloud applications are going, then this kind of model where it's not so much about the kind of setting up IT infrastructure or doing project work, it should be something you can consume as a service and pay per month. So that's where I see that there's a big potential for also this kind of telco model to then eventually take over also more of the kind of CRM side and the new business applications offering.
So you've been an MVP for what, 7 years? 8 years?
7. So from 2013, that was the first year I got the award.
Okay. Tell me, in hindsight, looking back over these years, what have you really felt about the program? What's your view on it?
Well, initially before I got the award, there's due to the way how I kind of position myself in the social media about presenting some critique about the choices that Microsoft was making there with the product, and also explaining what works, but then also what doesn't work. So I always kind of felt like a bit of a player on the neutral ground. And during that time, when I started running my blog, I was actually working for a customer organization. So it was really natural for me to be kind of this kind of very independent in that sense. So I wasn't trying to sell a solution to anyone. I was trying to advise them to what they should do, what things to avoid, and my point of view on where the offering is going, and then what's from a customer perspective, what's then the best route to take. So that was a kind of big question for me then. That's now then being more tightly in cooperation with Microsoft, having an NDA there and like uh, being directly involved with them, would that then kind of change my perspective or change what I could actually do in the community? And but pretty soon I actually realized that uh, even though of course you get more connected with the Microsoft people and what goes on there in the mothership, so to say, then that actually just helps you be kind of have better perspective on things. So you're not only looking at it from the outside. So I don't think I've ever then experienced any, let's say, regrets about having an NDA with Microsoft and having this kind of a insider position there due to the MVP program.
What's your advice for people that have a career in, Microsoft biz apps? Let's go that broad. What's your advice to them about considering whether they should pursue um, being nominated to become an MVP?
Well, the first thing you really need to pursue there is that your your place in the community. So it's then the award is only a kind of then a reflection of what you are there. It's not something that you really should be primarily aiming for. Now, of course, for people who are very uh, engaged with the community there and like want to make even a bigger impact, then sure. I mean, it's definitely a goal that people should have in mind there and think about that is it a role that they would feel comfortable to be in. But you shouldn't start with the kind of award in mind. I think that's rule number one that I hear many people saying, and it's very true. So you don't do it just for becoming an MVP.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people that do, right? As in because, and I've referred to this quote a few times, and it came from Rick McCutcheon, and he said, "Listen, if you see your career in the Microsoft Business Application suite of products, you should be setting it as a goal to become an MVP because it's one of the things that will have the biggest impact on your career in the space. So therefore, if that means you need to, bring your value, create your contribution in the community, you should go out and do that, right? You should definitely engage. And there's some people that feel like you shouldn't go after the MVP just for the sake of it. But man, most people I know that have become MVPs, it's affected their career massively, and it's affected the amount of income they've been paid. So there's tangible benefits of doing it, and sometimes if that is a goal, you've got to realize, what are the rules of the game, how do you play it, and therefore, if going out and adding massive value, I feel that people get caught into the vortex as well when they get into the community. They find a world that they didn't know existed, and therefore, all of a sudden, it might not have come naturally to start with, but they start engaging, and they do really love it. What do you think?
Well, I say that the most important thing is that you then either love it or learn to love it. What it means to be a kind of a sort of a public person in the space that we are working in, because of course it's obvious that it's not for everybody. It's you could be a great professional with in-depth knowledge and bring huge value to customers or in sales scenarios and wherever in that chain. Yet you might not be then kind of comfortable with the kind of the exposure and kind of being out there that you actually that's required from you if you are an MVP.
Exactly. Exactly. Is there any part of the MVP, of being an MVP, that you struggle with, that, if you like, doesn't come naturally to you, that you kind of, it's the bit, yeah, I don't know, the bit you struggle with in the program?
Yeah, well, of course, one aspect of the being officially part of the program is that then there's, I mean, there are metrics behind it. So then whatever you do out there in the community, it becomes a contribution that then is a factor there when the awards are then reevaluated every year. And it's something that you can never really then fully put in the background, and it can have a kind of an unfortunate side effect then if that becomes too big of a goal for you to like then remain in the program and you start competing with the other people in the network. which of course it shouldn't be like that. It should be still always based on the kind of let's say the all the other value that you get from the activity, but at the same time it comes you don't get money from it directly, but it still becomes a bit more like work, even though it probably is a hobby for all of us anyway.
What do you think Microsoft's benefits? And this is broader than Microsoft Biz Apps, the area that you and I sit within. But you know, Microsoft, I think 20 odd years ago, might be longer now, implemented this MVP program. What do you, in your mind, do you see as the benefits to Microsoft for basically providing, you know, free MSDN access that they give us? You know, they give us Azure credits, Office 365 credits. They cover our costs while at MVP Summit for 3.5 to 4,000 odd people. They host us. They cover our hotel costs. There's a lot of benefits that they provide. What do you think that they get out of it?
If you look at the history and like how the world around or the business has evolved, then I mean, what's the path behind decisions that customers make, how they acquire software or invest in technology X or Y, then it's funny kind of how the value from the program probably has been multiplied over the years, just a result of kind of how the world discovered the meaning of like evangelism or content from the actual professionals rather than just the people who are setting stuff. So it would be hard to like imagine that a successful company, software company, wouldn't have this kind of program these days. But back in the days when it was more based on just like forum contributions and not like there wasn't really social media as we know today, then it must have been I mean, during the years there probably have been points in time when they questioned about the role and kind of value from the program. But today, I mean, if they were to like run down the program, then that would surely be a very visible impact in their revenue streams. Not that far from that moment.
Yeah. So consider this, like you talked about in the early days of forums, and was there the value then? But if we consider each forum response, like let's say somebody puts a question in a forum and somebody comes along and answers that question, and the question gets validated as correct, right? So it's tested, validated as correct. That potentially was a support call to Microsoft, and we know that for a support call just to get answered, one of the figures in my mind that I used to use a lot, that was $12 straight away just to answer it. So we know that no support calls get answered and resolved in 1 minute, right? So therefore, there's an ongoing cost of that support call that could run into the hundreds of dollars. I wonder, is there a tangible benefit in the deferred support calls that Microsoft have because the community are engaging and responding to those?
Yeah, that's of course again one metric that you can kind of use to justify the let's say the day-to-day operations, and you probably could then like put a dollar figure on it. But then considering like would people be discovering the new applications and technologies if there wasn't a community around it that's blogging about them, trying out the new features and like amplifying the message that I mean comes from Microsoft product marketing, but then putting their kind of own perspective on top of that, then how would you then kind of quantify that kind of a free sales force that is out there then like encouraging people to consume more of the services that Microsoft provides?
Yeah. So true. So true. I definitely think, yeah, there's that two-part, right? There's the back end support, then there's that whole evangelism, having influence, you know, discovery and talking about those discoveries that are much more business centric rather than, if you like, demoware and things like that that is coming from the community. Yeah. Couple of things. Your would I be right in saying, apart from public speaking, your main contribution is coming from your blog?
That's probably true, yes. So I don't blog every week, but when I do publish something, they use probably is a far longer article than most of the blog content out there. So I do invest quite a lot of research time into coming up with the articles, and usually then trying to like analyze the impact that different announcements have on the ecosystem. So it's never just like kind of reposting what's available somewhere, but rather like uh, putting things together and like analyzing what the potential impact is. So that's what I really enjoy about the blogging, because it also then it's a way for me to clear my thoughts and like come up with the insights that can help our customers when I advise them on the what route to take and what solutions to build. But if I wouldn't have that reflection that I can do then via my blog posts, then I couldn't actually probably present the such a clear path for them.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the first time you came onto my radar was in 2012. And why I distinctly remembering it, I was in Toronto at the time. It was at a Microsoft partner conference. It was probably my first big international Microsoft partner conference, and there was this massive discussion or transition happening between CRM 2011 and then the product that, that first initial big change that came out. And I had taken a whole bunch of photos in a session of the roadmap. You picked those photos up and you wrote a dissertation on it. And why it sticks in my mind is that then I had a Microsoft person virtually reach out. I didn't know them that well at the time, tap me on the shoulder and say, could I please remove all those photos, because it had blown up as a big issue for them. And I wasn't outside what I was allowed to do, and that I was it was a public content. And of course, we've recently seen the same type of thing happen with Ignite. Just the other day, that same type of thing, announcements were made, people weren't clear about what was being announced, and there was a bit of eruption. So that's it just came to me that was in the first time your blog post, if you like, came on my radar. How many posts roundabout do you have now on your site?
Oh man, that's difficult to say. I could log in there, but
Is it 1,000 odd? More
no,
than
not
1,000?
that many. So, like I said, I don't have a weekly schedule for blogging, so it's mainly revolves around the pieces of news that are shared either by Microsoft or then usually from these kind of events shared by the communities. So I tend to like latch into those and then kind of turn them into my own summary of how I see the world turning. So yeah, and well, initially I was more also writing about this kind of customization tips and tricks, and I mean those are still very popular posts. If I look at the Google Analytics stats from my site, but then yeah, I've kind of figured out that of course I do still share those kind of tips to our customers and our team and all that, but then it would be maybe I've kind of found the format that people probably expect from my blog, so I'm trying to kind of follow it then and stick to the kind of maybe larger visions and like roadmap ahead and those kind of analysis rather than trying to put everything I discover out into the blog. So I'd rather than be on Twitter, for example, and amplifying the content that's been distributed there, or sharing some like small bits and pieces of news or tips that are coming out. So, but I wouldn't turn them into a blog article then. So it kind of has also the bar has been raised so high with the long blog post that I need to have a second blog that would actually be just about the kind of tip of the day things that would be just one thing and like this is how we do it and the end.
Yeah, interesting. Tell me, like you mentioned Google Analytics, and one thing I'm interested in at the moment, based on my research and things like that, is around your traffic sources to your website. So not who's reading, in other words, what's the geographies, etc. But I had a discussion actually earlier today, and the person said, listen, could you tell me, that they've got a website, they're creating content, that type of thing, they're in Australia. And they were like, is your biggest traffic source Facebook? Is Facebook driving the biggest amount of traffic? And I said, well, here we go. Let's share my screen. Let's share my analytics and let's take a look at what it is. And Facebook is bottom of my referrer source. when it came to social media. Interesting, my top referral source is Twitter. And that then is followed by LinkedIn. What about for you? Where are you finding the biggest, from the various sources driving traffic to your site?
Well, I think it's twofold. So the largest share still is the organic search that will then land people into the old articles where I discuss about some actual how to do X and Y. But then the more current articles that talk about recent announcements and like where the product is heading, then that's probably more from the social and like blog subscribers and those kind of sources. So the long tail of that kind of content where you actually uh, instruct users to do something with CRM, then that is a large share of the visitors. But then do I see that as an indicator that I should just be focusing on that? Well, not really. So it proves that there's value for the content when it's published on a kind of persistent platform like a private blog rather than social media. But then it's still also not I don't have metrics. I don't get paid for every site visit, so it's not like I'm trying to convert that into something. I'm just trying to rather have an influence on the community and like be able to advise them on where I think the product is heading and what I think people should be focusing on.
Yeah. I was just listening to a podcast myself just before recording this one with you, by a guy out of America that I listened to, and he has discovered he's been doing stuff in his community which has nothing to do with Microsoft at all, and what he has noticed from his analytics is that even his organic SEO traffic is dropping because what happened is Google are now basically they're deprioritizing even the right content over either their ad-based links or links to excerpts from what they think the person should look at, or other kind of Google assets over driving directly to, they might have even put your name in, but they'll still promote all that other stuff over actually what the individual's looking for. And what this person was saying is that be very careful about the investments you place in Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, and actual Google SEO, that type of thing, over owning your own world, like having your own website, and making sure everything is on there, and having other ways of engaging with your community outside of relying on SEO now and even social media, because the algorithms are not favoring you by any suggestion. They're favoring, of course, those providers making money off that traffic coming to you.
Yeah, I think that's very solid advice about kind of owning your own destiny there and not relying on any of the platforms that would probably offer you an existing network, but then they can decide on what content is shown or where it appears, or I mean, is it ever going to be visible after the stream is gone? So I think especially looking at my then blog stats from I started like in over 10 years ago with my first writings. So had that been on some platform that wouldn't be then accessible to me in the same way as my own website hosting is, then yeah, that would be gone. I would have none of that long tail to take advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. What are your thoughts on unified interface, and the fact that the web or the legacy web client is going bye bye? What are your thoughts, and do you think the market's ready for it?
Well, it's been a long time coming, and we're seeing already the unified interface, the community being launched there, and lots of good content coming from Microsoft that is now actually for the first time instructing customers why they should migrate and how they can migrate. So I think that it's long overdue compared to like when we have seen the first versions come out there. And if you think about the past year, then it's always been a question of like, okay, is this feature now available on unified interface? Can we migrate there now, or should we still stick to the old one? And it's really now time to kind of set that aside and like accept the fact that I mean, 95% of the features probably are there, and it's going to become the default experience anyway in very short time. So I mean, accept the fact and go there, because if we look at the it's not just about like changing the web client for dynamic CRM, but it's about unifying the Power App story into a single framework. So that is the biggest kind of driver for Microsoft to now be pushing people into adopting the new interface there. So it's not just about it being prettier or having a feature that's not on the web client, but rather like accepting the future that now we are actually building everything as Power Apps, and here are the benefits for you. So essential migration to be done, but then of course for customers who have a very kind of a CRM point of view into the applications, then of course for them it might be seem like yet another fourth upgrade. So it's important then to kind of explain not just the fact that okay, this is faster and this has this and these features, but rather the big picture about it becoming then a mashup of all the client technologies that you can enjoy in the Power Platform.
Yeah, so true, so true. It's good. Listen, we've run out of time. It's gone so quickly. When I think of you, I think of CRM, I think of craft beers, and I think of rave parties. I love the fact that you have your other hobbies, and it's not just about CRM. And I think that's important in our industry to have that kind of balance. That it's not just always about what you do in your day job and your community, but also I love the fact that if I wanted beer advice, you're the man I'm coming to, and I hope to have a beer with you in the next couple of days. But before we go there, I've got 6 questions. They're quick fire questions that I want to ask you, and whatever comes to mind, just let me know what they are. So first of all, here's a random question for you. Which famous person have you met, or as close to famous have you met?
Well, I met the ex-president of Finland, Ari Halonen, when I was a child. I was sharing the same kindergarten as her daughter.
Wow. Okay, there you go. Very good, very good. This one's about experience. What was the first music you ever bought or stole? We won't clarify which it was.
The first cassette I actually bought was Michael Jackson Bad.
Wow, that's very good. Good memory. In fact, just when you said cassette, it triggered what mine was. That's very cool. If you could solve one world problem, what would it be?
Probably the climate crisis, because that's the biggest disaster that's looming above us right now.
I agree. Okay, here's your deep question. What's something you disagree with about the way you were raised?
That's a tough one. I've never really considered my childhood being a kind of limiting factor for almost anything. So I don't know. Well, of course, if it would have been a chance, then maybe to live abroad for a while as a kid, there might have been a good stepping stone to the kind of international world that we're now living. But it's not something I could blame my parents for not moving.
Agree. Okay, what's the last thing you completed on your bucket list? Or what's the most recent thing you've completed on your bucket list?
Bucket lists. Well, I got married this summer, so maybe that would be one of them.
That's so good. Okay, and would you rather end the life of one human or 100 puppies and kittens?
Sorry, what was the question?
Would you rather end the life of one human being or in the life of 100 puppies and kittens? It's such a mean question, isn't it?
Yeah, well, probably in this current crazy world that we live in, there could be some leaders of the world that might be better off. So yeah, if I could choose the one person, then yeah, that would be it over the 100 kittens or puppies.
I love it. Well answered. Jukka, it's been great to have you on the show. If people want to find you online, where can they find you?
So my blog is at survivingcrm.com, and on Twitter my handle is Jukka N, so Jukkan, and you can find me on LinkedIn, or just search my name there. So those are 3 options for you.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed the show and you're keen to become an MVP, why don't you check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/NZ365guy. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. Every Monday I release a brand new video on how to become a MVP. I address one specific area to focus on or to consider in your journey to becoming an MVP. There's a playlist up there that you might want to take a look at, which shows all the past videos that I have done. Remember, full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/131. See you next week.